Welcome to Does It Matter by Brainy Ballers, where we dissect the game with cutting-edge analytics to give you the upper hand. We analyze everything from hand sizes to average depth of targets to uncover hidden trends that no one else sees. Say goodbye to guesswork and hello to data-driven domination. Because here at Brainy Ballers, we don't just watch the game, we understand it. So get ready, it's podcast time.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into a really fascinating analytical tool, the Running Back Star-Predictor Score, SPS for short. This deep dive is all about unpacking how this system, how it tries to forecast future success, help you spot those undervalued guys, and maybe even challenge some common thinking about top NFL draft picks. It's sort of meant as a shortcut, to get well-informed quickly, like Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Matt Forte. They're the top 3 all-time on the SPS right now. And get this, the top 10 players ranked by the score, they have 29 Pro Bowl appearances between them. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, and what's really interesting, I think, is the methodology. How they built it. The SPS, it was developed as a prospect scouting tool using data going way back to 2003. And they applied it to every single drafted and undrafted free agent running back since then. It mainly zooms in on those drafted in rounds 1, 2, and 3. And it synthesizes 17 different metrics, quite complex, all rolled into one percentile grade. So a higher SPS suggests a better shot at career success, which they measure using fantasy points.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting for me. The SPS often goes against the grain, against what everyone else is saying. Take Bucky Irving in the 2024 draft. Most people had him as maybe the 5th or 6th best running back. But the SPS, it ranked him 3rd overall. Or think back to 2023, Jahmyr Gibbs. Most rankings had him behind Bijan Robinson, clearly behind. The SPS actually gave Gibbs an 81.5 score compared to Bijan's 71.6. And we'll look now. Gibbs has slightly more career fantasy points so far, 606 to Bijan's 592.
Wow.
So it's not just confirming biases, it's actually finding discrepancies where experts saw a gap and saying, hold on, that Gibbs versus Bijan thing is really eye-opening. Oh, and Devon Achane was the SPS RB3 in 2023 as well. Another hit.
Right. And these aren't just, lucky guesses or isolated cases. It really suggests there's a consistent pattern here. The SPS seems to be onto something deeper.
Exactly. It's systematic.
Yeah. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, the research backs it up pretty strongly. Consistent predictive power. Over 19 seasons of data, the top 10 fantasy finishers each year, their SPS scores were, on average, 21.2 points higher than the guys finishing way down in the 31st to 50th range. So that begs the question, right? Is there an optimal score, a threshold? And the data seems to point towards an SPS of 60.0 or higher. Players in that range, above 60. They show up in the top 10 fantasy finishers 51.7% more often than they do in the bottom 10. So that 60.0 mark, that's kind of become the benchmark for identifying potential top performers.
Okay, 60.0, the numbers seem clear, but can you walk us through the core stats? What's the hard evidence?
Absolutely. So statisticians use something called the Pearson correlation to measure predictive strength. The correlation between a running back's SPS and their future fantasy production.
Do you want to start dominating your drafts? At BrainyBallers.com, we've researched every metric under the sun for you to find which ones are best linked to fantasy points. You can access hundreds of metrics to sharpen your scouting abilities so you know which metrics matter and which are just noise. Stop guessing on which thresholds to look for within each metric. Big numbers can be misleading or irrelevant. Our Ultimate Athlete Blueprints reveal essential scouting metrics, their importance, and benchmarks within each metric that help predict a player's probability of being a success or bust. Elevate your scouting ability with Brainy Ballers Ultimate Athlete Blueprints today. Click the link in the description. Now back to the show.
Is 0.369. It indicates a pretty strong positive link overall. And for context, you compare it to other things people look at, like top college all-purpose yards. That correlation was only 0.236, draft capital, 0.234. So the SPS is just significantly more predictive than those common metrics.
Right, so it's saying maybe we've been focusing a bit too much on draft position or just raw college yards, especially for those top guys.
Exactly. And that difference, it gets even starker when you isolate the running backs taken in the first 3 rounds, the ones teams invest heavily in. For that specific group, the SPS correlation with career fantasy points jumps way up to 0.475. That's very strong.
But here's the really wild part. For those same top guys, first 3 rounds, draft capital actually has a negative correlation. It's negative 0.40.
It fundamentally challenges that whole draft capital's king idea, at least for running backs in those crucial rounds.
That is wild. It completely flips the script. So for someone listening who's always relied on draft capital, what do you say? Is it useless now?
Oh, not useless, no. But maybe overvalued compared to what the SPS is capturing. That negative correlation suggests draft position alone isn't picking up on these crucial factors. The SPS weights heavily. It seems SPS gives a more nuanced picture beyond just the draft day hype. It's about finding value within those early rounds, too.
Okay, that makes sense. So ultimately what we found in this deep dive is that an SPS grade of 60 or higher seems to be the real data-backed benchmark.
Right. The research points to it having the strongest predictive correlation we've seen for any running back metric out there, matching up with historical success.
So you can actually use this information, this SPS score, to make more data-driven decisions, help minimize the risk of picking a bust, maybe enhance how you build your team. And thinking bigger, beyond just fantasy football, what does this mean for you? How could applying this kind of, robust, data-heavy analytical approach change how decisions are made in other really complex areas? Think business strategy or even scientific research, something to mull over.